Chapter 3, Pandemonium. Is this even real? God, I hope not. The order was so sudden, not to mention outrageous, it didn't even register for a second. Take off my clothes? Did I hear that wrong? I wasn't the only one hesitating. All of us stood there, looking for the changing rooms or stalls which must be there if they wanted us to change, which set the creature off. Now, it bellowed, grabbed the nearest girl by the back of her neck, and hurled her off toward a lit hexagon tile. It grabbed two more girls as all three trainers barraged us with savage barks. We crowded over the glowing tiles. I had to fight to stay upright and keep from being knocked over the edge. They drove us into a long and narrow room with drains built into the floor, and we packed in tight. I could feel the fear radiating off myself and everyone around me. The weird orbs, the strange floor, the dog people with their teeth and shouting barks. I was completely freaked out, and so was everyone else, and we all fed off of it for one huge synergistic freak bomb that exploded when the walls, ceiling, and even the floor erupted with cold, stinging water. I shrank from the spraying, freezing jets, but there was nowhere to go. The room was too small, we were stuffed in too tight, and the water came from everywhere, and there was no escape. The air in that tiny space literally trembled with shrieks and screams under the wet, miserable assault, reinforced by vicious shouts from the three huge, toothy creatures who had followed us in. "Clothes off! Clothes off! Take off clothes! Take off now! Scrub rotten skins! Scrub! 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 Whole head! Whole body! Stop squealing and wash! Do it now!" They looked twice as terrifying, with wet fur plastered over rippling muscles and water dripping from their mean faces. They seemed impervious to the cold, and our screams and whimpers pulled no compassion out of them. I peeled out of my nasty, formerly crusty, currently slimy Leo as soon as I could, which wasn't soon at all, because we barely had any wiggle room, and everyone was frantically stripping, and it was all elbows and knees and eyeballs and ribs. "Smooth! Smooth! Fast as smooth!" the beasts roared, but their shouting and snarling didn't facilitate smooth. The spray turned to suds. I raised my arms, turned around, scrubbed my hair. The water was so cold it hurt my head, but I was able to wash most of the snot stuff that had dried on my skin and caked in my hair, and my ears, my eyebrows, and everywhere else. When the jets ran clear again and we rinsed off, I felt like a terrified, half-drowned, but very clean rat. They herded us, dripping, shivering, dressed only in goose flesh and desperately avoiding eye contact, over more lit tiles, into the next room. We were in the open again, a few bare inches from that bottomless drop in most directions, and also wet. Several people slipped. We were lucky no one fell off. The three weren't sympathetic. "Don't stop! Why is she stopping?" "Move, Knight!" "Walk correctly, clumsy sapien!" "Faster! Now! If she is coward like invertebrate, she will crawl like invertebrate!" With shouts and insults, they hustled us next to bins set up in rows, suspended off the tiles showing where it was safe to walk. "Get clothes on! Do it now!" the furry wet creatures hollered. "Her silly naked sapien hide is breaching of etiquette. Cobalt wish of be blind!" There were jumpsuits in the bins, all the same size, all the same gray color. I grabbed one and moved out of the way, stuffing my wet arms into the fabric, not realizing it was upside down. Unfortunately, that drew the attention of one of the creatures. "Sacred excrement nuggets, subject! All sapiens is stupid! Gresson should allow finish and make subject spend remainder selection walking on hands like half-brained Gleemac. Her mother did choke her air supply when she were born. Subject's luck score must be of triple numerals. Someone so stupid should have killed herself with eating utensil by now." Fortunately for me, there were others who were having an equally hard time, and the screaming werewolf found someone else to harass. Once I got the suit right side up, I still didn't think it would fit. Most clothes don't, because the sleeves and legs are too long in women's, and the shoulders are too tight in juniors. The price of being a competitive gymnast. This jumpsuit fit me perfectly, though, and somehow they fit the tall girls as well. The suits covered us neck to toe and even had soft arch support in the feet. It also seemed to wick the moisture right off my skin, which I would have thought was a nice feature if I hadn't been so busy fearing for my life. Also, there was the stomach issue. I mentioned before that I had some nausea when I woke up. Well, it hadn't gotten any better. In fact, since the shock and novelty of the showers had begun to wear off, it got steadily worse. Believe me, I did not want to puke. Not here, in front of all these nice people who I had never met. Definitely not now, with all these crazy space wolf monsters. My stomach had other plans. It had decided whatever was in there, it had to come out now. So it did. There was about 5 seconds between the thought I need to find a toilet or a quiet corner or something, and me doubling over as a torrent of saliva, stomach acid, and something white and sticky gushed out of my mouth and nose. When had I ingested that stuff? Or better question, why did I ingest that stuff? I didn't even have time to take another full breath. My body seized a second time, forcing another deluge out of my gut, splattering onto the tile and out into the abyss. I'd hoped, with the fury of the angry creatures and the distraction of getting dressed, no one would notice. When at last I was done retching and looked up with tears streaming out of my eyes from the intensity of my purge, every single person was staring at me. Some of them were more than a little green. Then, like dominoes, girl after girl leaned over and emptied their own stomachs. For a minute there, it was like the Hallelujah chorus, but with puking instead of sopranos. The creatures went momentarily quiet and thoroughly horrified, at a loss for what to do. Some girls recoiled on all sides in pure 100% medical-grade disgust. One collapsed to the floor in full fetal position, eyes screwed shut and hands clapped over her ears. The rest were locked in upchuck hell, physically incapable of doing anything other than noisily emptying the contents of their stomachs. After the final cookie had been tossed, and the air was filled with quiet whimpers, shaky breaths, and the sickly aroma of fresh bile, then, and only then, did the crazy fur monsters break their freeze. They blinked and stared at one another. Then they handed out spare jumpsuits so we could clean our faces. "No more doing that," one of the wolves commanded. "Aye, aye, Captain Crunch. It's not like any of us were big fans either." They barked at us to move, and we all fearfully shuffled out over the glowing tiles at the far end. Not knowing what else to do with it, I folded the dirty suit in an awkward wad and left it. Seemed to be the popular choice.